So, good morning.
Morning.
Um, I think with what's going on right now, the title is much more, I would say, appropriate, but that isn't my reflection. Although we can always um, uh, contemplate on that title in relation with what's going on right now. When Calvin asked me to talk in front of you about ecology, I said, why not? I mean, ecology is a branch in biology, and I've been a biology teacher for a few years now. And so, in short, um, I'm in front of you today to talk something, a phenomenon in ecology called ecological succession. Um, that would be the topic of my talk in relation to the history of UUCP. That's why I said, with regards to what's going on, well, we can have that as a discussion later in relation to the title. But today, it's about ecological succession and UUCP's history. So, two the things that make me feel at home in the UU faith. First, it welcomes science, and I think this is the only religious organization that openly welcomes science as one of its sources of information, as far as I know. Um, just 2 Sundays ago, John showed us wonderful photos of Dumaguete City, the faces, the places, and according to him, the photos, well, the way I see it, and according to John, the photos were so amazing, wonderful, that it feels meditative, something that touched me within. And that's photo, just any photos, but it's how the photos were captured that uh, that captivates me. Photos teaching me. Today, I implore you that we make way for ecology to share its insights. Second, what I like about UU Faith is that I find more value and significance in the Bible if viewed as a historical book that records events in the past. In this manner, we can learn from experiences and gain insights from those who have come before us and contemplate on its relevance to our lives today. This makes the book sacred for me as these lived experiences of people long ago still continues to speak to me today. I chose this text, uh, Isaiah 61, verse 11, because it talks about hope and healing and renewal. Just a short background of the text. Isaiah was a prophet who lived in Judah around 740 to 700 BCE, or sometime around the 8th century. He is likely a well educated person and connected to the royal court, providing guidance, warning, and call to repentance amid threat from neighboring empire. In 586 BCE, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon conquered Judah, burned Solomon's temple, and exiled people, especially the learned and the skilled ones, from Judah to Babylon. Judah, modern day Israel; Babylon, modern day Iraq. After King Cyrus the Great of Persia defeated Babylon, he ended the exile in 538 BCE, allowing the Jews to return home to Judah and rebuild their nation. Isaiah 61's context is post-exile and focus on rebuilding Judah, its temple, and community. The message through song that we just sang summarizes this context, which culminates in verse 11, which I'm using today as my text. For as the earth brings forth its shoots, and as a garden causes what is sown in it to spring up, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring up before all the nations.
Since it is about ecology, might as well focus on this text which talks about shoots and seeds, plants in general. In 515 BCE, the temple was reconstructed and the community stabilized once more. We start by posing the question of how this was rebuilt. It's like rebuilding a temple, brick by brick. People unite and consistently perform many small actions that may seem insignificant individually but are monumental when combined. This is enough to instill a sense of wholeness in each Jewish person at that time. These are the seeds that bring forth shoots, eventually leading to a garden which can be seen and benefited by the community. Key takeaway messages. Number one, rebuilding of communities occurs in phases, and renewal involves a collective and continuous efforts that facilitate healing. This will serve as my guiding message as I draw parallels between ecological succession and UUCP's history. Allow me to relate these texts to the parallelism I observed in the phenomenon of ecological succession and UUCP history. But before going into that, let me show you a very short video clip of what ecological succession is.
Imagine a barren rock with no life, just emptiness. But over time, something amazing happens. Life slowly begins to take root, creating an intricate balance of nature. Let's dive into the process of ecological succession on bare rocks. Ecological succession is a natural process where an ecosystem changes and develops over time. On bare rocks, this process begins with the simplest organisms, and eventually, it leads to a fully developed ecosystem. But how does it all happen? Let's break it down. Succession begins in environments where no soil exists, like newly formed volcanic islands or bare rocks. The first pioneers are organisms like lichens and mosses. These hardy organisms can survive extreme conditions, and they help break down the rock surface to create the first thin layer of soil. Pioneer species, such as lichens, play a critical role in the early stages of succession. These organisms don't just survive. They break down rocks and begin the process of soil formation. Over time, their decomposition releases nutrients, which are vital for the growth of future species. As the pioneer species break down rocks, they form small pockets of soil, allowing for the growth of other plants, like grasses and small shrubs. This marks the transition from the pioneer stage to the next phase of succession. With soil established, larger plants, such as shrubs and small trees, begin to take root. This increases biodiversity, attracting herbivores and even small predators. The ecosystem begins to become more complex as new species thrive. Over centuries, the ecosystem continues to evolve. Eventually, a climax community forms. This is a stable and mature ecosystem that doesn't change much unless disrupted by an external factor, such as a fire or a storm. It could be a forest, grassland, or any other mature ecosystem. Several factors influence the rate and direction of succession. Climate, temperature, precipitation, and disturbances like wildfires or storms can either speed up or slow down the process, creating unique ecosystems in different regions. Ecological succession on bare rocks is a fascinating journey, showing how life can begin from nothing and develop into a thriving ecosystem. It reminds us of nature's resilience and its ability to adapt over time. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. So that was ecological succession presented in a short form, summarized in a short form. So what are the parallels between ecological succession and UUCP history? Well, to break it down, I'm showing you this slide, and there are different stages, and you have time in years or in decades, and that's how long it will take
for this succession to occur.
So, first stage, we have the pioneer stage. This is the founding years. Lichens and mosses, as being discussed, they are hardy and resilient species, and they can thrive in harsh environments. And as they do, like thriving on bare rocks, as they do, they wither the rock and provide nutrients, releasing these nutrients for releasing these nutrients in preparation for the coming new species that will inhabit the area. So this soil provides nutrients and becomes a platform for future growth. UCP began with Reverend Ribeo Kimada. I don't think we have a picture of him here. Yeah, there, on the drawing at the back. And he was excommunicated from his previous religious affiliation. And this excommunication led to him founding the Universalist Church of the Philippines way back in 1955. So it wasn't really a kind of, we can say, not really a harsh environment, but not a conducive environment for building organizations. But that's how it happened. It started with 9 congregations and few ordained ministers, which planted the first seeds of universalism in the Philippines. It requires dedication to the cause of growing universalism in this part of the world, despite the challenges of lack of resources like RD materials, distance, and transportation difficulties. Way back 1950s, the roads, the transport system is not as comfortable as it is now. Despite these challenges, their effort sets the foundation for growth. So that's the pioneer stage. The second stage, we have the early growth. So community takes root. Grasses, herbs, as you can see there, and small shrubs spread from the soil. Food chains develop. Simple food chain. Ecosystem is fragile but shows increasing diversity. Congregation starts to spread out as members relocate to new places in Negros Island and starting new congregations. That's how these congregations were. That's the process how UCP spread to cover the entire Negros Island. Reverend Timada would regularly visit these congregations and help it grow into a universalist community. To help him, ministers and lay leaders continue its ministry in their respective congregations and communities. Leaders were ordained into the ministry, strengthening connections with religious organizations abroad, like University of Gloucester and Universalist Church of Gloucester and Universalist Church of America. So these were the first connections of the Universalist Church into religious organizations abroad. That was the early growth. So we can see increasing complexity. We can see growth. Third stage, we have the intermediate or the seral stage. This stage, we have young forest, becomes the ecosystem becoming more complex. We can observe competition between what's living in there, and of course, we can see disturbances. Larger plants take root, as indicated there, more species joining, making it diverse, and creating food webs due to its increasing diversity. Competition for space, nutrients, and sunlight increases. Ecosystem is richer, but more prone to disturbance. The assassination of Reverend Timada in 1988 was a major disturbance in UCP's history. However, new leaders carried on the responsibility, and ties with UUA strengthened due to its acceptance as a member of the UUA. As
what I've heard, we're the only organization outside of America and I think Europe that is considered a member of the UUA. On top of that, UUCP was now SEC registered and being legally recognized as a religious organization in the Philippines. So we can see uh, the evolution of the organization into something that can now be that is legally uh, acknowledged by the community and making ties outside its organization. So I would say that would be the intermediate or the settled stage. Fourth stage, we have the climax community. And just like any other movie out there, it's always the climax that we want to, that we're waiting for. Climax community symbolizes or is established as mature, stable ecosystems. High biodiversity with mini niches. Niches are these, small microhabitats that would enable different organisms, species to live in there. So you have all these small microhabitats, these niches, which provides a wide array of living space, habitable environment for different organisms. Energy recycling becomes efficient, nutrient cycling becomes efficient, and we have the proliferation of long-lived trees. UUCP now having a more refined bylaws and processes, one that was made by its leaders rather than basing it in other organization. Just a short background, the first bylaws of UUCP was based on another organization. It's not really the leaders making the bylaws for UUCP. And at some point, we decided, let's make our own. So I think that is a show of maturity in terms of leadership in this organization. This signifies stability in the organization, creation of programs addressing different inadequacies in faith, understanding, financial difficulties, developing the next generation of leaders, and just a few that shows maturity and stability in the organization. Maintaining strong partnership with UUA and other sympathetic organizations, incorporation of Unitarianism not only in name, hence we have UUCP, but also in opening up religious views, making it more acceptable to liberal ideas. This was a very big challenge for if we go back to the life of the religious life of this church. At first, we are considered as universalists. In fact, up to now, most of us are universalists. And introducing Unitarianism is not an easy feat. Okay, and that was a very big challenge, but it somehow was introduced, and I think it paved way for some of the minds to be in UUCP other than Christianity, or I would say conservative Christianity. So I would say that was uh, an indication of the maturity and stability of the organization. These four stages show that building a community takes several stages, as what I just briefly talked to you about. And as you can see there, it can even go up to 100 years or more. And it needs more time, just like rebuilding Solomon's temple. These are built on consistent doing of small things, like maintaining connections and communications despite distance, visiting congregation despite challenges in terrain, weather, creating programs and projects that address needs of members. These are just a few of the many things we can consider bricks, if which is put together, if put together, is enough to create a huge impact to members and the wider community as well. However, it doesn't end there. There's one part of the picture there which I haven't discussed yet, the one with fire. And this is the last stage. This is the disturbance and renewal stage. This is, you can consider this as resetting to previous or earlier stages. Forest fires, invasive species, and not to mention, I would say, anthropogenic interventions like mining the mountains of Cebu and the Sierra Madre. I mean, people are doing that. Those things change the, the status of an ecosystem, disrupts climax communities. These things reset the community to previous stages, or worse, back to the pioneer stage, the barren stage, the bare rock stage. But the small things, the bricks, are the building blocks by which climax communities are made up. Through the collective and continuous efforts of these small bricks, ecosystems are restored and becomes more adaptive, resilient, just like the people who rebuilt Solomon's temple. They have to make do with limited resources. But the dedication and true intention to improve was burning in each person involved. These challenges or problems encountered by UUCP are stepping stones to improvement, making it more resilient and stable religious organization. I find these parallels insightful and enriching for me as it continues to nurture the religious aspect of my being. Thank you, and let us continue to share these bricks that we have.